Hello everyone, and welcome. Today, we're diving into a fascinating, slightly sad story about a gun that was, quite frankly, too good for its own time. This is the FN FAL. It stands for Carabine Automatique Légère, or Light Automatic Carbine. It was born in Belgium, created by one of the most famous gun companies in the world, FN Herstal. The FAL wasn't a terrible gun. In many ways, it was a mechanical work of art. It was designed to be precise, elegant, and perfectly engineered. But here is the twist. It was a commercial disaster. It was so beautiful, so complicated, and so expensive to make that the military customers of the 1970s refused to buy it. It taught the world's gunsmiths a crucial lesson. In a war, reliability and low cost often beat high-tech perfection. Today, using the clear visuals from World of Guns, Gun Disassembly, we'll look inside this beautiful failure, see how its complicated design doomed it, and how it had to die so that a simpler, more successful rifle, the FN FNC, could be born. To understand the FAL, we must first meet its famous older brother, the FN FAL. The FAL was the king of the world's rifles for decades. It used a large, heavy bullet and was built like a tank. It was famous, earning the nickname the right arm of the free world. But the world was changing fast in the 1960s. The Americans had just introduced the M16, which used a smaller, faster, lighter bullet, the 5.56mm round. The military philosophy shifted. Armies decided it was better to carry more light bullets than fewer heavy ones. This new 5.56mm era was a massive problem for FN Herstal. To stay at the top of the global market, they desperately needed a new gun to replace their FAL king. They needed to adapt quickly. So, the engineers decided to shrink the powerful FAL design down to fit the new, lighter bullet. They believed that if they made the new gun just as precise and beautifully crafted as the old one, everyone would buy it. That belief was their first, most expensive mistake. The FN FAL was technically very impressive. It was one of the first 5.56mm rifles built with a rotating bolt, a feature designed for great accuracy. Imagine the internal bolt of the gun like a set of tiny steel keys locking a door. When the bolt pushes the bullet into the barrel, those little keys rotate and lock the bullet chamber shut, making it incredibly strong and tight. This high-precision locking mechanism made the gun very accurate. But that precision was the problem. The FAL's design required an enormous amount of expensive machine work. Every part had to be milled, polished, and fitted exactly, like the gears in a Swiss watch. This was the opposite of what military customers wanted. They weren't looking for a fancy, expensive watch. They wanted a cheap, mass-produced tool, a shovel, not a scalpel. They looked at the FAL and said, "It's beautiful, but we need 10,000 of these, and we can't afford to pay this much for every one." The core mistake of the FAL was its reliance on milled metal parts instead of cheaper, simpler stamp parts. Think of it this way. To make a major metal part for the FAL, the factory had to start with a huge block of solid steel and slowly cut away everything that wasn't the part. This process, called machining, takes time, uses expensive tools, and wastes a lot of metal. Compare this to its later competitor, the FN FNC, or the Soviet AK-47, which rely on stamping. Stamping is like using a giant cookie cutter to punch out the shape from a sheet of thin metal. It's fast, cheap, and simple. Because the FAL was so complex, it also had too many parts. The internal workings were delicate. This meant production was slow, reliability suffered when the gun got dirty, and the final price was simply too high for the global military market. The FAL was stuck. It was too complex to be cost-effective for the Army, and it wasn't famous enough to be successful in the civilian market. Its production stopped after less than 10 years, a huge flop for a company as famous as FN Herstal. The failure of the FAL was an expensive lesson, but it was a necessary one. The engineers at FN Herstal learned exactly what not to do. They realized they had to throw away their beautiful, complex design and start over with a focus on simplicity and low cost. This new focus led directly to the creation of the FN FNC. The FNC looked similar, but mechanically, it was the opposite of the FAL. It was simplified, with fewer parts, and most of its major components were made using that cheaper, faster stamping process. It was less refined than the CAL, but it was cheaper to make and much more rugged. The FNC learned from the CAL's mistakes. It kept the good idea, the accurate rotating bolt, but ditched the bad idea, the costly, complex construction. The FNC went on to be adopted by many countries, including Sweden and Belgium itself. The CAL had to fail commercially so that the FNC could succeed globally. The FN CAL is not a gun you see in many movies, but its place in history is vital. It stands as the transitional failure between the expensive, heavy FAL and the successful, cheaper FNC. It showed the world that simply shrinking a classic design isn't enough. You must also simplify the manufacturing process. It was a beautiful, high-tech machine that was defeated by the simple reality of money and mud. Thanks to World of Guns, Gun Disassembly, we can look inside this mechanical marvel and appreciate the complex engineering that sadly made it too expensive to exist. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this look at a magnificent failure, please like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments which weapon you want to see next.